All right.
Welcome everyone. Hopefully you can hear me nice and
Good
clear.
morning. Yeah, good morning, good evening.
That's it.
All right. Got a few people piling in today, some familiar faces. So we are going to take a minute or two here and let some other people join us. Oh, Golden, as always.
I'm sure he's been hanging out for this call, so we'll wait for your questions at the end, mate.
Yeah. So before we get started, just so everyone knows, we want to make sure this goes nice and smooth. We have a special guest today, someone from our dev team. We're going to ask the first questions. We've gathered some questions that we think the community would be interested in and that we get a lot. So just to make sure everything goes smooth, we will ask some questions first, and then we'll open it up to the crowd so everybody can have a chance to ask a question if they have any. Should be a fun space, I think. We'll learn a lot of new things for you guys. All right, and retweet the room if you want.
Yeah,
Get some
we'll
more
check that
people
out.
in here, kind of spread the word about Matrix World a little bit.
Yeah.
While we're doing that, cool. While we're doing that, just some updates. So, ever since we've had that funding, the team has been focusing on hiring and expanding, especially related to game developers, right? Game artists, 3D artists, concept artists, things like this, to expand the team to help expedite the process of this build. Right now, the team is still focusing on building out that avatar system, getting that RSS3 player profile completely integrated into the game engine. And along with that, the team is still working on building out that demo. So hopefully they're getting some of those steps finished up, within the next sprint or two here, the next month. And once that happens, they can start chipping away at the next set of goals. And I would expect the next short-term roadmap to be out around that time. That's what I got after speaking with the game designer. So things are happening. It should be good. On the other side of that, as far as marketing, I know all of you want marketing. For those of you who don't know, we've grown organically up to this point. No paid marketing, no paid advertising. But around the time we get that new short-term roadmap, that's about when we will be turning on the marketing and really, really pushing the project forward. All right, so I think we've gotten a few people in. We can get started. Daniel, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, I'll kick us over. Another little security notice as well for anyone who does have Chrome. Make sure you update straight away. That was a pretty urgent update, so please stay on top of those things as well.
Definitely.
Usually we have a few more people joining our space as well a little bit later on, so I expect it to pick up as well. But this is all being recorded and will be in our Discord, so you can check up there as well. But I'm going to introduce our guests now, and I won't say too much about them because I'll get them to introduce themselves and their background. But we do have a dev from Matrix Labs that's helping out with Matrix World as well, and this is Tim. So, Tim, I'll get you to jump off the mic and just say a quick introduction and who you are and what you've been up to.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep, nice and clear.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's good morning. Nice to see you guys in the Twitter space. Actually, I'm quite new to to the Twitter space. It's actually like I only use it a few times, so maybe a little bit kind of not that familiar with that. But yeah, I will try my best. And just brief introduction. So I'm currently the tech lead of the backend system of Matrix Lab and also Matrix World. And so my experience, yeah, I'm not sure if my experience is important, but I've been in like Web3 scene for like 4 to 5 years and developed several dApps. And before doing full-time job at Matrix Lab, I was in a blockchain and fintech department of a fan company in North America. Yeah, that's basically my background. And currently busy working on Matrix Labs projects. Most important part is the Matrix world. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant. That's a great little summary of who you are, and we appreciate that. And a quick welcome to all our listeners today. We've got a couple more people joining and a few familiar faces as well, which is great to see you there. For those who don't know, we do have a dev here, and we're going to dig into a few questions now about Matrix World specifically. So I suppose the first question that I want to know is, and this is the question we get all the time in our Discord, is are there any limitations in what we can build on our plots of land?
All right, I think this is a really good question. So basically, we want to create a very open and very open space for everybody to come in and create their own lands, their own like buildings, and also in the further steps their own applications. So we actually so in the long term, we don't want to put any limitations of what we can build. So because our ultimate goal is to build app, but it's kind of a progressive, it's a progressive procedure, right? So in the very beginning, you'll be able to build the buildings, use the material and the building blocks in real time in the game. That will be our Q2 goal, to release a real-time building system. That it's kind of like similar, if you guys have played like some like sandbox games. So it will be pretty much similar to that, except that we will have all these kind of like a configurable objects there, so that you can, when you're just building this, this kind of like in-game building with these objects, you will be able to attach the customizable script there. So currently we only in Q2 our goal is to support the scripts that is only building, right? But in Q3 and Q4 we plan to open kind of like these APIs for kind of like developers to inject their own customized scripts, and also there for in terms of limitation, I think in Q3 and Q4 we will also open a kind of advanced builder tool that will allow a kind of like experienced builder to build a more complicated thing, including kind of import their own 3D models into this advanced builder tool, and then publish that as a part of the kind of prefabs or building blocks. And also in Q3, this kind of platform, the tool I call this platform, you can also submit your own materials to this platform, so that after the approval, I would say the approval is basically some like limitation, because we need to consider the kind of like the rendering power of the browser. So after very simple approval, it will be, I think it will be like automated approval. Your materials will be part of our game. So it's kind of like users of Matrix World will do their own contribution of these kind of building materials and building blocks, and also in these in-game building blocks, right? Once you build a kind of a complicated building with these building blocks, you can also publish them into a prefab. So prefab, let me just briefly explain what is prefab. So prefab is basically a complicated kind of a building or complicated creature you create in the Matrix world itself, and it can also be published into our marketplace, and people purchase that prefab can directly kind of like can directly ramp up a building in the game without doing any kind of manual buildings. So this is kind of like the system we're thinking of. And in terms of limitation, we don't want to put much limitation. It's basically the only limitation we want to think of is there will be some, according to this browser's rendering power. So we may put some limitation, but other than that, no. Maybe it's a little bit too deep, but I think this is the answer for this question.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So quick question, just writing on the back of that. I know some users are interested. You mentioned the prefabs. So there will be prefabs from the Matrix World team. Will users that are experienced builders be able to kind of make their own prefabs and monetize that way, sell them on the marketplace? Do you have any plans for that?
Yeah, definitely. So currently, as I mentioned in my last answer, maybe last answer took a little bit long. So actually, I already included the answer, the partial answer there. So basically, the prefab comes in two ways, right? The first way is that in the game, right, you can just use these materials we provided or like published by kind of like a community to build the building and then kind of like publish the whole building into a prefab. That's one way. The other way is you can use some other professional offline software like Blender, like 3D Max, right? So these softwares, you can build your own 3D model, right? And then publish your model into a prefab. But with these offline software, the only limitation is that in the prefab, you won't be able to put customized scripts there. So that's a Matrix World limited kind of like a function. You can only put this kind of customized script in our world. But anyway, right, so there's a trade-off, right? So if you use this offline 3D software, maybe your model will be more kind of like refined, or it's kind of like it may be easier for some kind of professional like builder to build this model, right? So basically we open two ways, and we also have a plan to release a, it will be future plan, but we also have a plan this year to release some plugins in Unity so that in Unity, users can build their own 3D models and also add the configurable script and object there. Yeah, so basically,
awesome.
Yeah, that's an answer.
So a lot of you that have been asking, what are some of the what's the tech stack you can study for Matrix World? It seems like looking up some Unity tutorials might be a good way to start.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Unity is very, very useful. Yeah, I have to recommend that. Yeah.
Tim just keeps on dropping some alpha and some little hints for the future on us, which is great if you're in this Twitter space. So we appreciate that as well. You're pretty much answering all my questions I have in front of me. So we're going to go through as many as we can and kind of cover as much as we can. But one of the interesting things that I read in the white paper and people have talked about as well is like the life cycle of the objects on the land. Can you explain what that kind of means and what it means to have life cycle on the objects?
Oh, yeah. So basically the life cycle of the objects. Yeah. So I think we already explained it enough in the white paper, but do a summarize, right? So it's very similar to what a game engine work. So a game engine work is basically it will iterate all these objects in the game, right? Hierarchically. So basically, it will load the space itself, right? A space will contain space itself is a single unit virtual machine, right? So the reason we divide these lands into space is that it will provide the Matrix World very good scalability, so that each land we put like a specific amount of computational resource, right? Resource there, and these resource will be used to run the life cycle of the spacing and hierarchically, right? And it will iteratively go through all these objects inside that thing and run these kind of like config script on these objects. So the reason to do that is that achieves the customizability, right? So all these objects you put into the scene, you attach the script there, right? And then these scripts will be is guaranteed to run. So that's the reason we put this kind of lifecycle there. So this is from a kind of a very technical aspect. If it's from the end user's aspect, so I would say the lifecycle will be these buildings. If you create these buildings in this scene, right? So it will be there forever unless you destroy it, right? And if you import any external NFTs there, right, and you attach script there, the script will run forever unless you unattach that. So yeah, so I'm not sure if this answered the question, but I think I did explain it in both technical side and also the kind of like user experience side. Yeah.
Great. I've got another one to piggyback on top of that. So we keep talking about the programmability. Users are wondering what programming language they will need to know if they want to add some of these custom scripts to their lands.
All right. So currently, yes, actually we are already developing this part. So currently, our plan is to support JavaScript, and in a medium like period from here, not short term, maybe medium term, we will also support Lua. Yeah. So, but currently the primary goal is to support JavaScript and TypeScript. It's basically a subset of JavaScript and TypeScript,
Okay.
I think this is very kind of like a most commonly like used language, especially in kind of like front end area. So don't worry, that we will use very regular kind of like a popular language. So there's no kind of like unknown language we will invent. Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm sure a lot of people will be happy to hear that. JavaScript is a very, very beginner-friendly language as well. A lot of tutorials and resources out there. So Golden, there you go. JavaScript and Unity would be a great way to start. You know, we can get a channel in the Discord if anybody wants to study those together and help each other out.
Golden is cheering. It's great to see.
I really like to see these like hearts just pump up on this. Like,
we need more hearts.
Come on. Let's get some hearts.
Why not?
We need more hearts, or we're not moving on. No more questions.
All right.
A question actually, speaking on the back of Golden. Now, I know Golden, he loves to collect hats, so Matrix assets, so he loves the hats. And I'm sure we'll see a lot of hearts come up in a second. Now, he did mention the idea of creating his own plot or place of his lands that no one could access unless they had a hat asset. Now, do you think we can restrict access to certain parts of land based on NFTs or password restrictions or anything like that?
I think that's a very, very good question. So basically, right, so as a public functionality, so we need to consider it very carefully whether we want to put a password or put a specific limitation on this land, right? Because the goal of like Web3, the goal of like blockchain-based metaverse is basically want to create a space that everyone can join, right? To lower the entry bar, right? So that's a goal. So I won't say it's kind of it's non-achievable, right? It's I would say luckily in Matrix world we have this kind of scriptability or programmability, right? So you can just put a script into every object in the game. And don't forget, if you look at it carefully in the white paper, the thing itself is a matrix object, so that you can actually put a that's basically implementation detail, but I have to go through that just especially for Golden maybe. Yeah, so we officially we may not release such feature, but it's definitely doable and achievable by adding a customized script into this like a game object. So everybody that entered your land will be checked by a password. And this definitely achievable, and maybe later we will put a we can I would like to invite every kind of developer or every kind of builder there to make sample objects, sample things of Matrix World and create their own game. And this, I think this is definitely will be one of the demo, and it's very good to showcase. Yeah. So I think that's the answer.
No, that's great. And I think that covered that, and it was very reasonable, kind of that response as well. Now, unless Kyle has any more questions, I've kind of gone through most of the questions here, and then you've answered a lot of them as you were answering other ones as well. So I greatly appreciate that. But Kyle, is there any more questions from your side of things?
Let's see, off the top of my head, I think that's a really, really solid start. I think what I know what everybody would like to hear. So the community knows the general roadmap, the long-term roadmap, and they know right now the team is working on some things like the avatar system, right? They're working on the backend for the demo. Could you give a little bit of info, nothing too in depth, on what's coming next? What's just a rough timeline, maybe when they can expect the next set of short-term roadmap points and kind of where that will lead us?
Oh, definitely. So I think this is also a good time to talk about this, because I think this is the end of Q1, right? So why not we give a kind of a short and I think it's also very important, a short roadmap of next quarter, and maybe like a relatively long term, right, after the next quarter. So as I mentioned, right, in previous answer, I think leak some in previous answers. So we are currently building the in-game real-time building system. So basically that allows the users in the game, right? You don't have to open another website or another software to build the scene. You can create a scene real time in the game, and with a bunch of predefined materials as well as community contributed materials that will also be so the contributions, like the contribution and the submission system, will also be released in Q2. And also a set of prefabs. So we actually have a team, have a the game art team. They are building a bunch of very different style buildings. Like I said, there are cyberpunk buildings, there are kind of steampunk building, and different style of building, sci-fi buildings. These buildings will also be released as prefabs in I think it will be releasing prefab in Q2, and basically we are also develop a public land demo scene. So I think that's also on flow. So in short, in Q2, in terms of the playability, you will be able to play through the playable demo scene, and have a hopefully in Q2 you'll be able to have a try on building these kind of like building the building. Sorry, this sounds weird. Building this kind of building, you'll be able to build these buildings with the prefab and the materials in the game, right? So that's a target, and we are working hard on this to try to make a playable world alpha demo for you guys. So this is from a playability side, right? And from a NFT side, I think this is also a lot of people very interesting, very interested in, right? So NFT, basically we are building a NFT platform, right? So that so for this part, we will this platform, it's a little bit like backend, but I also want to talk about this. So we will enable NFT import and publish the buildings and creatures as an NFT that you can freely trade it in the marketplaces. And currently, this part we have our smart contract team busy working their smart contract and the NFT collections, and we have our backend team working on this NFT management backend. So hopefully by the end of Q2, you will be able to play with your NFT in Matrix World. Yeah. So I think in Q2 we will also release a set of I think I mentioned like earlier a set of like prefab NFTs, and you will be able to have a try. So the environment of these two functionality may be still in beta environment, which means that in Q2 we may release first in the testnet. But at least we will have you guys. We will invite you guys to come to have a try to play in these games. And in the long term, in Q3 and Q4, we want to release. Basically, based on these features, we want to release more kind of exciting functionalities. These functionalities will this is still aligned with our like long-term roadmap. So always look at always look at our like website and our Twitter to get the latest update on what we will do in the long term. Yeah, so it's still aligned with our long-term roadmap.
Awesome.
Oh, that's my answer.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds really exciting. And for everybody listening, I've seen some of the work the concept artist is doing for these prefab buildings. They're really cool. They're really cool. I think you guys are all gonna like them a lot once they come out. So that's exciting. I think Q2 is going to be a big quarter for the project. Really big quarter for the project. Let's see. Anything else before we turn it over to the audience? I think we can open it up to the audience now. So, Golden, I know you're going to raise your hand right away. Anybody who has a question, anybody who wants to ask anything, you can raise your hand to speak, or if you can't speak, you can post a question in the AMA questions channel in our Discord. We could also take questions from there if you don't want to come up or if you can't come up to speak. All right. So let's open it up. Who wants to come up? Golden, I'm just going to invite you anyways. Oh, here we go. All right, welcome up, guys.
How's it going, guys? Am I on
see
here?
Reggie. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, so yeah, I've been following you guys for a long time. I actually minted like the first wave that you could mint. So I've been very excited for this project. I guess my question is that a lot of the land projects that are currently out, they allow you to earn some sort of passive income, whether it be through, renting it out or through mining on it or whatever the case may be. Is there any plans for that in the future?
All right. So, Kyle, do you want to answer a question, or I can also answer?
I'll let you take these if you don't mind. I'm in here every week, so I think they'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. So okay. So thanks for Reggie for asking this question. So I think this is also a question a lot of people care about. So I want to be serious and specific on this question. So the short answer is yes. So I think what we will do is basically we will open more kind of as we mentioned, right? So we will open more like functionalities and these prefabs, and some of these prefabs they have their own kind of functionalities that they can just generate like profit and also like generate in-game NFTs. So for example, we have a plan. So that's example. It's not being finalized yet, but we have a plan to create a kind of prefab called like token factory, that basically you can just collect these tokens with a specific cooldown. Here token I mean NFT, yeah, and the specific cooldown in these prefabs. So this is just one example. We have multiple kind of like ways of like monetize on this lands, and in a long term, we will we have seriously like considered of like the token. So currently it's currently it's being discussed and already in design phase. So internally in our team, we have several kind of like design proposal of the token economics. So, but the thing is like this, right? So we don't want to issue. So there are a lot of projects outside, like other than Matrix world, right? So they're basically like issuing their token even before they have any kind of actual playable kind of things, right? So so our goal is still a little bit. We want to be solid. Want to be kind of like responsible for the community. So so we want to put the building things and to put these kind of actual playable worlds into the top priority, and kind of like make our community bigger and get more people into the game, into the metaverse, right? And then the token will be the next step. Then the token will be very solid, and it has the actual metaverse and artifacts backed on that token. And then these token holders will be confident, right? Will be confident to these projects. So to summarize, in short term, we will have kind of in-game quests, in-game kind of like interactive objects, buildings you can monetize, right? You can collect, you can finish quests and do and get these NFTs and airdrops. In long term, yes, we will have kind of like the token and also the kind of like staking, minting, these functionalities. These will be like released alongside the token plan. Yeah. So I'm not sure if this answers your question. And
that was a great answer. I appreciate that a lot.
Okay, thank you very much. And
yeah, that was great
one
stuff.
addition. Okay, one addition comment is that so as soon as we release a playable world and also the and it's kind of like well accepted, we will raise our priority on the token issue plan. Yeah, so that shouldn't be very far from now. Okay.
Nice. Thank you a lot.
Yeah, thanks.
Love it. Love it. Really good answer there. So I know a lot of you have been wanting to hear more about that. The team, I just want everybody to know the team is really putting their full effort into this and trying to make this the best possible project. They don't want this to be another hype-based project. They want it to be built on real, solid utility. They want that to be what really sets the metaverse apart. So we are looking at every way to add value and utility to our users. There will be many ways to monetize, as Tim was saying. Another example, some of you probably saw the partnership we announced last week with AdMix. That's another example of how we're bringing utility for users to advertise on their land. With AdMix, what they do is they create NFT billboards. AdMix attracts all of these large brands. They deal with managing the brands, the advertisements, things like that. You just buy the NFT billboard, you put it on your land, and then they split the revenue. They give you a dashboard with data analytics. The rest of it is just hands off. So we're trying to bring a lot of different ways to monetize this, to really bring value to the users. Great question there. Golden, I see you had your hand up. Take it away.
First of all, I just want to say thank you for showing up today as a dev. This has been great. I'm sure the community is really thrilled. And like I said, your answers have been great. Like I said, if this is, you're new to this Twitter space, you're doing a great job, and just want to say thank you for joining today. This has been awesome. That's number one. Yeah, number two, I was actually going to bring up the billboards, because I've been looking at the project they've been doing, and it looks absolutely amazing. I watched an AMA or two on that as well, and it seems like those billboards that they're planning on rolling out, that team is highly innovative and does more than just advertising, but it looks like they're really going in depth of bringing in all these really innovative partners and then trying to figure out how to really make it part of your atmosphere, which was really cool. So just want to say, I put it in the thread the other day in the Discord saying that you guys are doing a great job as dev teams. Just as moderators, it really is. You guys are keeping us involved. You guys are, I couldn't say I post questions in there all the time. You guys are always responding, always with the joke, always with the community. The community seems like it's really building too. So just want to say I'm having a lot of fun with this project, and just want to say thanks to you guys.
Yeah. So I have to like add this emoji multiple times. So great thanks for like Golden's support and the participants of the community, right? So it's really from a dev's perspective, it's really our kind of pleasure. It's really our kind of like motivation for like doing these things. Because we have a kind of a very good community that always support us like Golden does. Yeah. So thank you very much. And I actually would like to hear one or two questions from you. So if you have any, just ask. So yeah.
So when dealing with the multi-chain and that you guys are dealing with, it seems like it's going to be ETH compatible at first. Will there be any kind of limitations on any kind? Whether I'm on writing something that's going to interact, they're just going to be API calls that we're going to write in Java. Maybe you could give us a little bit more information on, as the someone who's going to be developing. Is there going to be any kind of limitations for us interacting with those contracts?
I'm from India.
Okay. So actually, this is also a good question. So currently, we really want to lower the bar of like interact with a multi-chain. So currently, not much limitation. The only limitation is basically on each chain's entry. So basically, on each chain they have different standard of like wallets, right? So you have to like log in to different wallets to enter to get the authorization and authentication, and then after that there should be no limitation, because currently we all have these chains we actually like integrated with. They all have like the relatively complete authorization and authentication workflow. As long as we follow that workflow, all these API calls after that workflow is done is all auth, right? So other than the logging and auth part, no. Yeah.
Great.
Okay,
if I could ask one other question, if I could ask. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Is just from a security standpoint, how often is my land NFT going to have to actually interact with a contract? And is there a way? Is there something? That is it going to be more that once it's authorized by your system and I'm now a user on there, or am I going to have to authorize every time I make an update? Maybe if you could give me a little bit more information on interaction between, I guess, my NFT as a landowner and your smart contract.
Oh yeah, so definitely. So there is a very complicated design behind that, but we, in short, we use a batch. We actually do a batch sync up between the blockchain and the kind of off-chain system. So which means that, right? So all these states updated is first cached in our backend, and then once you want to update the status into the blockchain, then you can choose whatever frequency you want to sync the data from the off-chain backend to the blockchain. And don't worry that all these changes or the updated they are all authorized by the landowner and also like cached in our backend system, so they won't be lost. The frequency is totally up to the landowner. So landowner can choose like what's the frequency. So if it's too frequent, then people may worry about like the gas fee, right? So and also you have your own kind of like freedom to choose different frequency on different blockchains, saying, okay, I want to sync up the data to flow in a maybe a higher frequency, right? So that's also achievable. Yeah. So in summary, it's a customizable kind of like frequency you can choose. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Great questions. Golden, just want to say it back to you. Thank you for all the support. Every event we have, everything we post, every day you're always there supporting the project. We really appreciate it. Great questions. Now, we also have a question in the Discord from Raven Kus. He's in the space, he's listening, just can't speak right now. It's related to the splitting and merging of lands. So I believe if you could touch on that a little bit, Tim. And then his specific question, I think this relates more to being able to make objects and NFTs and control their life cycle on your land. He says, I have heard that land can be divided into parts. Is it possible to divide the land 1 by 1, or is smaller than 1 by 1? Or is 1 by 1 the smallest possible? And he says he's asking in order to find out whether it will be possible to rent out a part of a land, say for advertising. So if he could subdivide his land even further than that.
Oh, so this is a really interesting question. So yeah, so currently we our plan is the minimum kind of like a dividable yeah, so dividable unit is 1 by 1 land. So that's for a specific of land, right? If we receive like feature requests like divide the land into smaller parts that is smaller than 1 by 1, right? So basically 30 times 30, sorry. We have to consider it, because if we divide it into like infinite number of pieces, then the land itself, it's kind of like it's not even buildable, right? Because it cannot like hold a very small kind of building. So I would suggest that that's basically also a discussion going on in our team. So we had a suggestion for the users who want to do kind of like partial land renting, or maybe they want to rent part of their land, right? So they can do building renting, right? So basically all these objects, all these buildings, we meant it to be a interactable and publishable object in there. So publishable means that you can publish as an NFT, right? And then you can just sell the NFT or rent this NFT into a different user, and then it's kind of like achieve the goal of, okay, I want part, or maybe I want only a building on this land to be rented, or the ownership is shared, right? So that's the way we think it's better to achieve the goal. And in general, for the merging and the dividing, right? So merge is basically, our plan is you can merge the 1 by 1 lands or any shape of lands into a non-trivial shaped like land. So it may not even be a square, may not be even be a rectangle. It can be any shape. And for division, you can also divide them into different shapes, but the smallest dividable like unit is 1 by 1. So I think that's current design, but we do value any suggestion and feature requests from the community, right? So if on certain point we think it's kind of like reasonable to do a division smaller than 1 by 1, then we may go and implement that, because it's basically doable. It's just in our design, we currently think 1 by 1 is the most reasonable size for the smallest unit. Yeah. Hopefully this answers your question.
No, that definitely makes sense. And I know that Kyle is chatting in the Discord, so he's a little bit tied up at the moment. But is there any other questions? I can't see anything else going on in the Discord at the moment. Any other hands that want to be put up to have a chat?
I've got a question while we're waiting to see if anybody else wants to come up. So, Tim, I would love to know what drew you into blockchain.
It's a personal question.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is very interesting. I think it's really good to talk about these things. So what drew me into blockchain? Yeah. So actually, I got to know blockchain very early. I think it was like 2012, I think. But at that moment, we only have a concept of like blockchain, right? So we only know Bitcoin, right? So that's the first time I heard about the term, and the reason I knew Bitcoin was there was a kind of a random video that shows also the top 10 like valued like currency, and Bitcoin ranked number 1. I think that was a kind of a like all-time high of Bitcoin. So that's very first time I heard about that. And the second time I have a very close kind of relationship or interaction with blockchain is after I joined the blockchain and fintech department of a fan company, right? And but basically what we did is we do a kind of a financial and a reconciliation kind of system using blockchain technology. So that is pure technology, no coins, no kind of like tokens there. It's just to use blockchain as a kind of auditing tool, right? So that's the second time. And the first time, so the third time I actually interact with blockchain very closely is that I think it's end of 2017. So I actually joined with my friend to create a DApp. So that DApp is basically at that moment I think it's also called NFT, but there's no kind of like a ERC 721 like the ERC 1155 standards there. So basically we handcrafted a kind of an NFT company, and we launched a project that basically that was a kind of Pokemon like NFT collection, and you can just purchase the Pokemon and level it up and fight against each other. So right, so then that opened my door of kind of like the blockchain Web3, right? So and after that, I continued to develop several like several like projects, right? Personal projects, or like I contributed to some like public projects. And the Matrix World and Matrix Lab is that actually after I quit my job in FAN, so I actually have no hesitation to choose join the Web3 thing. And yeah, so that's my like experience and history of like blockchain. So hopefully it's not that interesting, but hopefully you guys can get some inspiration from it.
It's something I really like to hear about when I meet people or talk to people in the space. I think a lot of people are interested because there are so many different paths and stories to see how people came into the space, what drew them in, kind of what experience they have. So no, thank you. I think a lot of listeners will be really happy to learn a little bit more.
thanks.
We have a follow-up. We have a follow-up question from Raven Koos. He said that's quite interesting, by the way, to hear your background.
Thanks.
But he wanted to go back to the renting. So, for example, we said maybe you can tokenize the buildings on your land, and then you could rent out a building. So, say you had a big land, you can have multiple buildings, and you can rent out the different buildings as one possible way to subdivide a little further. He was curious about the renting. How would that be accomplished? Would it be through smart contracts that the users would have to create? Would it be through the SVM, through the builder tools and software? Just kind of how can you actually make that happen? Do you have any plans on that, or are you still kind of working through the details?
Oh yeah, we have a plan. We have a design for that. So basically, it's so the property, the ownership is basically recorded on the smart contract because we are blockchain-based metaverse, right? So there's no kind of reason not to use the blockchain to record the ownership, and the SVM is basically synchronized, right, with the blockchain to update the correct information and display it in the Matrix World client. So yeah, so that's the simple workflow, right? And but this is not the only way to accomplish that. So you can also, right, use your scripts, right, to link it to a external database, and you can do your very own renting system on top of that. That's also doable. So we will do a standard kind of example of how to use blockchain to enable this renting functionality. But the nature of Matrix World is create a programmable kind of world, and you definitely have different ways of like accomplishing this goal. So yeah, hopefully this answers your question.
All right, thank you so much for that. I love that there's so much flexibility, and I think that's one thing that the team is really shooting for here, and I hope all of the users understand. We want to make this more of an open experience. We don't want it to be some straight and narrow path where you don't have any options. We want kind of your creativity, right? To determine what the limitations are going to be. Within reason, of course. You know, we have you know, some things. It's a browser-based world, so there are some limitations that we have to take into consideration. But aside from those, does anybody else have any questions? Do you want to come up and ask anything or type anything in the Discord? I think now is your chance. If not, we might start wrapping this up here. All right. I think that's a good spot for today. And everybody, just so you know, we plan to be doing this more regularly and trying to get the devs on into the spaces. Not every week, but, you know, hopefully once a month or so, depending on their time. Okay, one last question coming in. So we'll hit this question and then we will wrap up with that. Another one from Raven Koos, good one. So we know that Matrix World is going to be a browser-based metaverse. In the future, would there be any chance of expanding that to other platforms? For example, like a desktop client?
Yeah, so I think this is also a good question to answer. So in short, yes, there's a plan. And I think currently we have chosen browser as our top priority because it's kind of like the most accessible, right? It has the lowest access bar, and we want to get more people come to use. And after that, we will release two different like clients. So one is mobile, and the other is desktop. They are at the same priority, and I would say maybe desktop will come first because it's kind of easy. It's kind of easier to kind of migrate the browser to desktop, and that will have a much better, the visual effects, so much better performance and much better looking. Yeah, so that's expectation. So yeah, hope this answers your question.
Yeah, that's really exciting to hear that those are being considered down the road. This is something maybe not everybody understands why some of these projects, these metaverses, keep making the choice to go browser based, and Tim touched on this, and this is something I think that's very important to understand. It is about accessibility, right? So it is about accessibility, growing the community, and then making it so everybody that wants to can take part. If you have a game client that takes a high spec machine, or you have to download something, that's going to drive some users away from the world. Whereas if they can just go to a website and see a browser-based version, that makes it very accessible. That attracts a lot of people to come and try it out. So that's why most projects are using this as their main priority when they're launching these.
And
right.
also, one comment to add that because everybody currently most people are using kind of like browser-based wallets, right? So then it makes make it even more easier, right? So yeah, that's another reason. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. So thank you so much for your time today, Tim. I know you're really busy.
Thank you.
The team's got a lot going on. Maybe it's hard to see from the outside, but trust me, everybody is working very hard to make all of this happen. It's coming. It just takes time to build. So thank you again so much for sharing your time today. We really hope to have you back on soon. I'm sure everybody listening really loved it. So everybody, Thank you for coming. Have a good evening or a good day if it's morning where you're at. And we'll talk soon. Remember, you can always put your ideas or any questions you have in the Discord. Daniel and I are always there. We can relay these to the team at any time. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Thank you very much.